Welcome to Behind the Muscle podcast. Today's guest is a bodybuilding coach. Today's guest is Turner Riddle. Turner, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you guys for having me.
For sure. All right. So we're just going to dive right into the first two questions. I like to start each podcast off asking my guests. The first question, Turner, who are a few of your favorite bodybuilders of all time?
Kevin Levrone, Jay, Ronnie, obviously. So 3, Lee Priest, and Flex Lewis.
Okay. So I got to ask you, why Kevin Levrone as number one?
So when I was growing up, I was doing my due diligence, I guess you would say, as a child. And as a child, 18, 19, 20. And I was just doing everything I could, reading the magazines, reading what I could in the books, everything on YouTube. And I guess it was just more so his demeanor and his attitude towards life and then towards bodybuilding. It was kind of when I was bodybuilding, or I'm speaking Kevin, when he was bodybuilding, it was nothing but bodybuilding. He'd shut the world off. Nothing really else mattered. Now, I didn't necessarily have the 6 on, 6 off type, 6 months on or 4 months on, whatever type of mentality he did. It was just a lot. It was just bodybuilding his life for 12 months of the year. And so he had it a little different and much way greater. But I was in a bubble, and that's all I did was bodybuild. And so I just think that he's very, very hard nosed and just kind of gritty in that time. And I just love the way he posed. I just love his triceps were freaky. I mean, I could go on and on, but still to this day, man, like you watch some of his videos, or if I watch some of his videos, it's kind of like I still get chills,
Cool. All right. So the second question is going to kind of get us into your backstory a little bit here, where I eventually want to go. But at what age did you start lifting weights, and why?
So my dad, as far back as I can remember, literally as far back as I can remember, always had a, like a weighter squat rack, it would come with its own bench that would kind of slide out and you could adjust it and do. So he, as far as I can remember, he had that. Still to this day has that. I think he bought me my first weight bench Christmas, 7th grade. He's like, what do you think about getting a weight bench for Christmas? And I was like, hell yeah. I was spending, so my parents were split. And so I would spend some of the time with him and some of the time with her. And so I took that one to my mom's house, and it was just, I would just work out all the time. And then when I come to his house, he already had a weight bench. So it was just workout. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no,
I could run with that.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's perfect, because I want to kind of just touch on, I like to get kind of the backstory of all my guests in terms of childhood. So just touch on, where did you grow up? What did your younger years look like? Were you involved in sports? Just paint that picture a little bit for us, and then work your way up maybe to high school, and then we'll stop, and then I'll kind of guide us from there.
Always involved in sports, whether it was, it started in T-ball and then went into baseball all the way up to high school. I raced BMX, I raced cars, just racing in general has always been ingrained in my family. Baseball, huge, always been, not to toot my own horn, but, all-stars, MVP, stuff like that. And then start of high school, I had a friend that he was a really good wrestler. And I mean, we were tight. And like I said, this was 9th grade. And he was like, you should try out for wrestling. You would be really good at wrestling. And I was just like, I'll go out and practice and see what it's about. But, when it comes to wearing that, and I was the same way towards bodybuilding. When it comes to wearing the singlet to go out there and wrestle with another dude, I just kind of like, we'll see. We'll see where practice goes. Anyway, man, like wrestling, I just really enjoyed wrestling because, it's like kind of like what I was saying with Kevin. It was just me and my practice, honing in on my skill, getting better every single day. And And at the time I could put as much into it as I wanted. It was, yes, I would go to school and then get my little homework done, but that's all I cared about. Was once I took a liking to wrestling, I really kind of backed off on baseball and backed off on football, just because this was one that I really, really enjoyed, because it was something where I could totally focus on me and making myself better, versus, well, I'm a decent quarterback on a decent team, but if my running back has a bad day, that type of thing. Or same thing with baseball. And so that just kind of really lit the fire. I wanted to put on more muscle to be able to not necessarily throw these guys around, but yeah, when it comes to wrestling, strength was it was a lot of technique, but strength was a big factor too for me. And so that's when I really, really took to working out. So we'll say ninth grade is when I was like, it was school. I was on the football team, so I worked out with the football team. After school, when this is in the wrestling season, I would go to wrestling practice for 2 to 3 hours, and then I would go straight home, drop my books off, change, and go to the gym. And that was another cardio, sauna, weights, and that was just every day, man. That was my life. Where did I grow up? I grew up in Jackson, Tennessee, or West Tennessee, we'll say. Always been kind of Tennessean. My parents are split, so my dad's always been kind of here, and then my mother, she's lived all over the world, just traveling with work, and so that's kind of the gist. I lived with my mother most of my life, and so yeah.
How did I mean, you mentioned that a couple of times, your parents being split.
Yeah.
How do you think now, as a grown man, how do you think, or do you think at all, that split had some sort of effect on you in your younger years?
Now, yeah, it definitely had an effect on me, but not, I wouldn't say a detrimental effect like a lot of kids you see nowadays, or maybe their parents think. Honestly, I think for me, if anything, it was good, because I got to see two sides of two different worlds. I had a stepmother and a stepfather, or a stepmother and my dad, and a stepfather and my mother. And so that's 4 different people in my life that are all a little different. And so as I'm growing and forming and growing into my own person, I just got to see a lot of things that maybe were right, maybe were wrong, things that I still do to this day. And I think nowadays it's kind of a crutch for kids, like, or maybe the parents just think their kids are going to grow up screwed up. And I understand that. Yeah, I grew up my parents kind of played each other against each other. I think that's just normal. But that's what I tell people all the time, is I was so ingrained in riding my bike, BMX, sports, being active. That was just noise in the background. Like, whose house were you going to this weekend? I didn't really give a shit. I just wanted to, like, play baseball, ride my bike, be outside, do things like that.
Cool. Was there, and then we'll kind of transition post high school, but in those younger years, Turner, was there a coach, a teacher, anybody outside of your immediate family that had a big influence, positive influence on your childhood and your upbringing?
Yes, most definitely. Yeah. And you would know them if I said their name, but I was having the same conversation with someone yesterday, and it's almost traumatic, not in a bad way, but it's almost like, and I kind of got chills talking about that, just because, like, there's probably 3 or 4 of those coaches, one teacher that, really held me to a very high standard. And at the times, I, when it's hot and we've practiced for 3 or 4 hours and we're running the same play over and over and over, or whatever it may be, you're just like, is this ever going to stop? Like, I'm ready to go home. I want to go do whatever else I got to do as a kid. But to this day now, I'm so thankful for those people in my life. And like I said, I was having this conversation with another client friend of mine yesterday, and I said, I want to be that same person in my client's life. At the time when they're going through whatever I'm putting them through, they probably think that it's not torture, but I'm mad at them. And but at the end of the day, like, there's practices that I can remember. I can remember, like, specific practices, what play we were running, or what book report they made me rewrite over and over and over until I got it the way they wanted it. And so I think that's really, really helped mold the person that I am today.
Excellent, man. All right. So let's talk about, so when you were in high school, what were you thinking about doing? And then what did that kind of come to be after you graduated high school?
In high school, so freshman, sophomore, I went to a school, and then junior, senior year, I moved in with my father. Got in a little trouble with just hanging out with some of the wrong people, and we just went down the wrong road. Nothing terrible, but freshman, sophomore year, all I cared about was wrestling and working out. It wasn't anything like be a pro wrestler, because obviously there's really not that. I mean, you think Olympic. My coach was an Olympic wrestler, and all I really cared about was beating everybody. I didn't focus on where this was going to take me. Obviously, you know, my parents would talk, and we would be talking at the locker room, but it was just like, you got a match coming up, you got a meet coming up. I just want to win I want to annihilate every single person. Like I said, that was freshman and sophomore year. And I had kind of let football, I played for one of the top footballs, probably the top football school in the state of Tennessee at the time. And I mean, I was 5'6" in freshman year. I didn't hit 100 pounds until my sophomore year, if that tells you anything. Well, we'll say like 105. And so I was wrestling 112, and just because I couldn't beat the 103, and that was 103 was a weight class, and then 112, and our 103 guy was really badass, and I just couldn't beat him, but we practiced all the time. Anyways, I played for probably the top football school ranked in the nation. And like I said, I was 5'6" playing quarterback, and we were a powerhouse. We threw the football and we ran the football. And yes, I was good, but I knew it wasn't going anywhere. You know what I mean? So I went to practice, and I enjoyed practice because it was just something better than hanging out at the house playing video games. And it was with my boys, and we were all like rough and tough. Like, we just wanted to hit each other and talk shit. But when it was wrestling time, it was just like, I didn't have time for anything. It was, like I said, do school, wrestling practice after school, and then immediately after, I would go home, drop my books off, change clothes, and go to the gym for another 2 to 3 hours. So it was, and then I would get home just enough time to eat, go to bed, and do that all again. But I think I forgot what your question was. What was your question?
No, that's okay. I was just wondering kind of what you were wanting to do.
Gotcha.
And then how did that shape itself?
So freshman, sophomore year, I wasn't even really worried about what was going to come after that. It was just wrestling. And I did know that, like, if I continued to win like I was winning, and continue to improve, you know, my coach was like, he was a really, really good wrestler as well. So he was like, you know, I'm talking to this school and this school, and you just got to keep it up. And so anyways, between sophomore and junior year, got in a little trouble with some of my buddies that I grew up with. And so my dad was just now starting his own business, and now he's super successful and got several employees. And so I would come to my dad's for the summertime. Well, it was kind of like a transition phase, because like I just got in this trouble. And as a child at 15, 16, like, you didn't really know how to quit hanging out with the people that you'd hung out with for the last 8-10 years. And so my dad was starting his own business, and he was like, you know, if you go to school and you come to work for me, you can make as much money as you want to make. And he was right. So that just got my wheels turning. And so, like I said, at that time, I didn't really know how to like, we all lived in the same neighborhood. I didn't know how to just stop hanging out with these kids. So I just took my dad up on it one day, and it broke my mother's heart, my stepdad. I mean, they still probably don't like it, but I just told him, I was like, I'm going to move in with my dad. I'm going to finish high school, and then I'm going to go to college to do what he's doing. And we're going to just build that business. You know, that's what he wants me to do. And it sounds good at when you're a sophomore in high school. And so move here. I continued to wrestle, even though this is like super rural. And so there was no wrestling team. So I was having to drive every day after school. I was having to drive an hour and a half or an hour one way just to get to a school that had a wrestling program every single day. And then I'd have to drive home. And so that was like drive there for an hour, get there, practice for 2 to 3. So that kind of got old because I was the only wrestler at the high school. And so like the high school basically made a wrestling team for me. So I'd have to travel to all the meets and all of that. And my parents were supportive. We bought a wrestling mat, had it at the house, but it just wasn't the same, that environment, that culture. My guys that I was practicing with back home or in at the other school, it just wasn't the same. So I kind of got burnt out. I picked up baseball and football at this high school. And like I said, I was, and I guess the people that I was hanging out with here, when you live in a rural town, there's not a lot to do. So you ride around in trucks, back roads, drink beer. That was just kind of like go to field parties and shit like that. And so that's what I started doing. And it didn't really negatively affect me. Obviously, I'm in a good spot now, but the wrestling thing, and like I had wrestling scholarships on the table as a sophomore going into as a junior. And I just kind of pissed that away, to be honest with you. I say piss that away. I just got to a point to where like it wasn't all I wanted to do all day long anymore. And so I was starting to hang out with friends. I was starting to go to I started college a little early just because there was nothing else to do. And then so I started working out really, really hard here at the YMCA, and it just kind of, there lots of transitions were going on at that time. More working out, a little less wrestling, a little more hanging out with friends and college. And so the funny part of it all is like working out was still always number one. I put it over school, put it over hanging out. And so graduate high school. At that point in time, I transitioned full-time into college. And then I had a job. I was a server, college, and then working out. And so that was really all that I cared about then. And so I was making money. I was in college to do what, this lifestyle that my dad told me we were going to make a lot of money. And so when I finished college, started working for my dad, and my dad and I are like two peas in a pod, man. And I say that, and it's a good thing, but working with family was just, I'm not gonna say it was bad. Like we're so hard nosed. It's like two brothers, and all we did was argue. And so it just got to a point where it was better for the family relationship if we didn't work together anymore. And so at that point in time, I think that was 2014, like mid-year, maybe this time of year, 2014. I just kind of stepped away, got fired, whatever you want to call it. And well, at that time, I'm like 24. So bodybuilding's full force. I've already won shows and everything. I'm sorry I skipped so much. But like I said, after I graduated high school, it was just bodybuilding. And going into bodybuilding, I didn't really plan to go into bodybuilding. I was just going to the gym to, in other words, perform, have a great workout. It was nothing. Yeah, of course, put on muscle, but it wasn't like I was trying to like balance my physique. It was just like, it's fucking arm day. Let's go kill arms. I didn't really know anything other than you had to eat a lot of food. I thought steroids were like, not to bring steroids up, but I just thought I could do it without that. I could be a pro bodybuilder without that. Just young and naive. And so, yeah, man, at 19, the owner of the gym, I'd been going to the gym now for 2 years. The owner of the gym came up to me and he's like, "Hey, listen, we had never really spoke much. I mean, we knew each other from walking in and out." And he was like, "I'm doing my last show." I think he was like 42, something like that. He had coached, he had competed, and he had judged. And he's like, "I'm doing my last show. I'm hanging it up." He owned the gym. He said, "I think you'd be really good at this sport. I want you to do the show with me." And I was like, same thing, like I said, with the wrestling. I was like, I like to work out and I can pose, but those trunks, I gotta think about that. And he's like, "You'll be fine. I'll teach you how to pose. make you a diet and all that. And I was like, okay. I still hadn't committed, but I was like, I got to get some trunks and try this shit out first. And so, man, like the rest is kind of history. My dad and I split. He still worked his business, and I just kind of took up. At that time, at 24, I just jumped you from 19 to 24 when I did my first show at 19. But at 24, I was already coaching, like, and I say coaching, I was helping like 10 people at that time. And it was just like, hey, man, eat a little less of this. Let's do this instead of this. Hey, cut that shit out. Like I wasn't like writing them a plan saying, hey, follow what Turner says, blah, 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 blah. I was just trying to like guide these people in the right direction. Again, I was 24. I didn't know a whole lot, but I knew the basics. And I really think that's all you need most of the time. Just a little direction, guidance. And so, like I said, we'll say 10 people and this was for free. This was just helping. And like I said, 24, I just was like, I'm helping this many people for free. And that at the time, that's when kind of Instagram and Instagram was gaining its speed, but Facebook was full force. And so that's where everyone was posting at the time. And I was kind of coming into that crowd of competitors I'd want to show at that point in time. So I'm not going to say like I had any hype behind my name, but some people knew who I was. And so, I was like, okay, these people are coaching people and these people are prepping people for shows. At this point, I've done, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 shows, something like that. I think I can do this. And, I look back now I'll be 31 this year to 24. And I was like, God, some of the shit I had these people doing is just whack. But at the end of the day, that's kind of where we are or where we are leading up to 24.
Perfect. You did a great job of painting the picture there. Now I just kind of want to take a step back and expand on a few things that you just mentioned there, Turner. So you said your first show was at 19. You said you're kind of a little leery, just like with the wrestling thing, because you got the posing trunks and all that. But what was that first show at 19 like for you? What was the experience? Was it kind of like as soon as you did it, you were hooked, or were you more interested in still the training for the show? What was that prep and experience stepping on stage like for you?
Well, I got second my first show. It got second to a really good kid, and I mean, I don't know what that kid's doing now, but I mean, he was damn near a pro bodybuilder, and just like anything, I'm so competitive, man. I don't like to lose. So I knew he beat me, even though at the time I was kind of like, at the time I'm thinking, this kid's already on steroids. He's doing this. Just wait till I'm there. Just whatever I'd tell myself to like make it okay that I lost. But yeah, man, I was like, I didn't really even care about third, fourth, and fifth or whoever else behind me, but I was just like, that guy beat me. And yeah, I knew nothing. I really knew nothing about all the dieting. I just knew you had to eat a lot of protein. That's really all I knew, to be honest. And so I didn't know what a rebound was, but I'll tell you what lit my fire for more and more and more. Obviously getting beat just kind of put a chip on my shoulder. But when I went back to the gym after that, and you have that, well, it's different for everyone, that 10 to 12 week where it could be a rebound phase if it's treated properly. I was just watching. Obviously, I was filling back out for the most part, but the way my body changed from pre-show, seeing the show, and then the weeks after that, my strength was increasing. I was getting the craziest pumps. I mean, I'm probably not telling you anything you don't know, or anybody that's watching, but that man, that was all I needed, and it was. I say it was crazy. It was crazy because I was 19 and I knew nothing else, and I was just like, I'm putting muscle on really fast, which it wasn't muscle. I was just filling out. But like when you're going to the gym at 19 and you're seeing that, and like I said, it's a 10 to 12. It's different for everyone, but for that 10 to 12 weeks, that's all I needed to see that I'm improving this fast and I'm following this diet that this man gave me, and I'm doing it all right I'm doing everything I'm told to do. And so that's all I needed. Like that 8, 10, 12, whatever, however many weeks it was like moving on past that. All I cared about was getting bigger, getting better for the next year. and that's just how it went.
Excellent, man. So that gentleman that owned the gym that you were training at, and then kind of said, hey, you should think about bodybuilding, competing, things like that. How much did he kind of mentor you or help you in those early years? And did any of his mentorship or help kind of mold you into who you are as a bodybuilder and coach today?
Yeah, it did. Steve, he was the owner, and there's one other guy. I'll get to him in a second. Steve was really good. I mean, Steve was it's kind of probably where I get a lot of my bluntness, not all of it, but you know, I would hit a post. He's like, no, do not do that. That is not, we need to change that. And if anyone that knows me kind of knows that's just how I tell it. You know, if I tell you something, that's straight from the heart. If I don't say anything, I probably don't even care. But if I'm coming out and I'm saying, hey, that pose looks like shit, I mean that pose looks like shit. And so he was like that. Like, he's just blunt. And so I've got a lot of that in me. He owned an old school gym, and so I naturally gravitate towards that. Really the dieting and things like that. I mean, yes, there's still some of the things. I mean, he was the one that told me, when you're doing cardio, if you have a choice between a step mill, a stepper, and a treadmill, the stepper where you step down and then it comes up and comes. He was like, always do that. And so even to this day, like, I'll do a step mill and most of the time the gyms that I go to don't even have that one that he's referring to because it's so old. But that's just one of the things. Like, if I'm doing cardio to this day, I mean, that's how I want to do my cardio. Yeah, I'll go walk on the treadmill just from time to time to get warm or break a sweat. But if it's cardio for prep, that's what we're doing. So that's one of the big things that kind of stuck with me.
Who's the other gentleman that you said that kind of helped you in those early years that was a mentor influence?
Honestly, that was probably the biggest mentor influence in my life. And his name was Joe. He was I was 21, 20, 22, and he's probably my age. So imagine working out with a 20-year-old and super successful. I mean, like, he was driven like no other. Saturday and Sunday mornings we worked out at 8 a.m. and it wasn't like we'd come in at 8:15, sit in the parking lot and then bullshit and start at 8:35. It was like he came in sweating, like he was already breaking a sweat when he walked in the gym. I don't know what he did. Maybe the heat was on in the car. And him and I just got to become like, well, let me say this. Dallas McCarver, you know who Dallas McCarver is? So Dallas was my age at the time, and then you had Joe. And these were the two. Joe was an established bodybuilder, and everyone knew that Dallas was going to be who Dallas became to be. And they were about the same size, so 280, 285, something like that. And I saw Big Joe in the gym all the time training, and it was just kind of like, he was just like watching a freak just do their thing. And, I was just a kid, so I never really I wouldn't go up to him and talk to him because he was clanging and banging heavy weight, and I didn't want to interrupt. And then one day, he was on the leg extensions, and he was like, I just walked up to him, and I didn't walk up to him, but I was walking by him. He's like, "You want to train?" And I was like, "Fucking right, I do." And then after that, like, the rest is kind of history. We just became brothers. But he always just instilled like work ethic, and even it boiled down to like just being on time at 8 a.m. on a Saturday and a Sunday morning. And it didn't matter if it didn't matter if you were sore from the last leg day. Like, we're training legs on whatever days that was. And I mean, it didn't matter if you didn't feel like doing an exercise. It's not like he wasn't a jerk. He wasn't an asshole, but like, there was a lot of workout days where I would be waiting on him in the gym, and he would come in from work, in his suit and tie, because he worked a big corporate office job, and he would come in, change clothes, put his bandana on, and like, when he walked out, we wouldn't fist bump. "What's up? How's your day?" Like, he would just walk by me, and it was like, "All right, Turner, get your shit and let's go." And so he was just like the big tough love brother that I needed. And so he passed away of testicular cancer about 2 years ago, but maybe last year. But anyways, like, man, we just got to be like I said, brother, father, son, not father, son, more so like big brother. But and so like, I kind of treat my workout partner's the same way. We probably do a little bit more bullshitting than we should nowadays, but yeah, man, like when we're in the gym, it's business. Like, I don't care what your girlfriend's bitching at you about, or, you know, whatever. If you can give me an hour and a half, let's fucking bang. And then we'll chop it up, you know? So just lots of like real core values, being on time, doing what you say you're going to do. If you're not going to make it, let me know. And then, you know, the rest is just kind of like little mannerisms that I picked up on him.
Basic, simple communication, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing. Like, I could tell he wore it on it. He wore it. Like, if he was having a bad day, I could tell, because if he was having a bad day on back day, we would do probably 20 sets of deadlifts. And I don't mean like, you know, like reps of 20. It was like, we were deadlifting like 500, 600, 700 pounds. And I was just like, damn, my back's starting to hurt. Is this coming to an end? I wouldn't say that, obviously, but I think like he was waiting to break me. Like, I honestly think he was waiting for me to say something like that, which I never would, because that's just who I am as a person. But and then it would be like heavy one-arm dumbbell rows, and then it'd be like heavy barbell rows. It was none of this like lat pull down with a fucking cable and squeeze. It was just like all the hard shit. That was all we did. So yeah, man, that's why I guess I am why I am the way I am.
Excellent, man. All right, so touch on your like your own personal competition history, if you don't mind, Turner, and then I want to kind of transition into more of the coaching side of things. But how did kind of the competition side of things for you personally go?
Well, after I got that second place, you know, like I said, I took the following year off because I wanted to get bigger. And then as earlier on, that's always been my goal, is like, you know, before all these classes, because I was doing it way before all these men's physique and classic. I have nothing against those guys. I just see it one way because of where I started. The goal was always to be as freaky as possible, get big. I never really cared about like an aesthetic look, you know, and obviously that shows. But so anyways, in my very first national show, which would have been 2013, I got sixth as a middleweight. And so like your first time going to nationals, I think there was like 46 in my class. So, and I was 21 or 22. And the whole time leading up, like all the old heads in the gym were like, well, man, if you go to nationals your first time, you should just like, you're doing good if you split the class. So if there's 26 in the class, if you get 23rd, you're doing good. And I'm like, I don't know about y'all, but fuck that. Like 23rd, I'm winning. I'm going to win. Anyways, I didn't win. Same thing, like that little fire under me to just get bigger and get better. And in my mind, the same way I think to this day is the same way I thought then. I mean, now it's a little different because there's other classes that you could go into. But if I were to turn pro as a middleweight at 176 pounds, like what was I then gonna do? I'm not gonna be competitive with a Flex Lewis, you know. So I didn't sit around and try to go back and win it as a middleweight the next year. I was like, fuck that. Let's be a light heavyweight. And so it was just eat, grow. The next time I competed was as a light heavyweight. I spent that whole off season just trying to force as much food as I possibly could and train like a maniac. And I did. I put on so much muscle in a year, or in a calendar year. And then I was pretty successful as a light heavyweight. I mean, I probably won. Well, any show that I did as a light heavyweight, amateur show, I won as a light heavyweight. I can't remember how many it is at this point. I'll tell you this: in 2014, I won the Kentucky Muscle, and at the time in 2014, like amateur shows, that was a pro-am, so you had the professionals and you had the amateurs, and so it brought a big crowd. And when I did that show as a light heavyweight, I was a nobody. Nobody knew who I was. I didn't even know who I was, to be honest. I was just this young kid that was like in my mind, I was telling myself all those things, underrated, blah, 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 whatever you have to tell yourself to motivate yourself. Like, I'm going to be successful. Anyways, I won that show. I think, again, there was like 45-ish in that light heavyweight class. Like, when have we ever seen an amateur show with 45 in a light heavyweight class? I won that show, and like, I'm not going to say my life changed, but like, that's when people really started recognizing who I was, and maybe I was on something. And that's when I kind of gained the steam behind me to like I'm gonna be a pro bodybuilder, which I had already known in my head I was gonna be a pro bodybuilder. But that's when I was like, yeah, and these other people understand and they recognize too. Not cocky, but it just changed. It was like it changed from like this nobody to like, all right, I got the little bit of recognition that I need. And other people are starting to buy into it too. And that didn't and so after that, it was just, I mean, same thing. Like, that's when I was really trying to get my coaching off the ground, because I didn't have a job at that point in time. And so that helped my coaching big time, because I just won a huge show. And I don't really remember how many clients that got me or anything, but that's when people were like, okay, he's coaching, he's winning shows, he's on to something. Let's be a part of that. And then it just kind of, I competed in 2014, took 2015 off, did 2016 USA's as a light heavyweight again, and I got 9th. And at that time, I was like, I guess I was kind of caught up in all it wasn't bad, but I was kind of caught up in all the Instagram bullshit. Like, I feel like, and it's funny because like, when I'm sitting here where I am today, I see these people that are caught up in the Instagram mess. And it's not a bad thing. It's just a phase that you have to go through in this part of life that we're in right now. I mean, this is the age of Instagram. And so I was trying to like be big and whatever on fame, whatever you want to call it, on Instagram. And I kind of lost touch with, I wasn't doing it for the Instagram, but I had lost touch with, like, I don't know, man. It was just a weird time. Anyways, I guess I wasn't competing or going to the gym for Instagram. I still loved all that, but like, some of the things that I was doing and putting on Instagram was just for Instagram. And again, I can use the excuse and say it's for business, right? Like, I think we all use that at some point in time. I'm making all these posts, I'm doing all this, saying all these things, and it's kind of like, I mean, that was no different than Boston, which I was nowhere near that. But that's when he was gaining his fame from the things that he was saying on Instagram. And so, not to plug him by any means, but and so I guess I kind of just like flatlined in my bodybuilding at that point in time. And I'll say that honestly, because that's what I think. And just because I was caught up, and so move forward, go through different girlfriends, go through different things. I kind of like, some things changed in life, and I got more so, like, I got a big client base at that point in time, or moving forward. And so I just got so busy with, like, I didn't really have time to like post on Instagram and be all into that. I know I'm on a rabbit hole now, but you asked. And so anyways, now here I am, and it's like, I really so don't have to post to get clients. If I post something or people want to talk, I'm here and I want to be there. I want to be the person that will talk to people. I don't want to ever get too big for my britches where, like, yeah, he just doesn't, you know what I mean? I feel like there's some people out there that are like that. But yeah, it's, like I said, I can rant, I can go on and on about anything you want to hear about.
And I love that, man, because that's why, I wanted you on the podcast is just, to chop it up, but to hear your side of things. And one of the things that, when I go on your social media and I scroll through a little bit, one of the things that pops up is this t-shirt with cult leader on it. I want you to explain that to me, please.
So, in the most humblest way I know to say this, and I'm not there yet by any means, but you got to at some point know that you're on to something, or that you want to be a part of something that's See you. That's more than average. It's like what I reposted what you said on my other page today, because it's like, there's levels to all of this. Nick Saban said, you want to be good, you want to be great, or do you want to be elite? And in my opinion, a cult leader is someone that's elite, and it doesn't matter what they're in, what they're doing. Like, obviously we use the gym as the low hanging fruit here, because that's where my roots would be. But in my opinion, for myself, I want to be a cult leader in way more than just bodybuilding. Like, the same way when I walk into the gym and people know who I am, and it's, this is not me tooting my own horn, but like, if there's an aura when I walk in the gym of how we train or the things that we're doing, I would like that to be. It's no different than like a Michael Jordan walks. If Michael Jordan walks through the mall, to me, it's when people see you and not necessarily want to emulate what you're doing, but they understand that like there's characteristics and traits and mannerisms that you have that make you the person that you are. And so, it's bodybuilding would obviously, like I said, be the low hanging fruit here. But if you love golf and you're at a golf course and so walks out there, and it's not just sports. I mean, it can be a wide variety of anything, and that's just what's so crazy is like, when I was thinking this, my spouse, like we kind of like see eye to eye. So when I'm telling her these things, she understands. But there's so many cults in this world that a lot of people wouldn't even understand, because they don't look at it like, I feel like when I'm seeing things like a bird's eye view. And so, like there's a Jeep cult, that like there's these people that just got a normal Jeep, and then there's these people that just got fixed up Jeeps. And like when they see each other, they're like, oh man, he's got this and this and this done to his Jeep, or, shoes. There's so many different things. And I think that like there had to be someone to set that trend that didn't really care what anyone else thought about the way they fixed their Jeep up. This is my Jeep. It's special to me, and it represents who I am. And so really what it boils down to is you are not going to be swayed or afraid by what other people are going to think about or judged on the way you're living your life. Obviously, I want the people that are trying to be outstanding high achievers. That's who I'm trying to target here. Not the people that are hitting their fucking alarm clock 2 and 3 times a day, but posting on Instagram, I want to be a pro bodybuilder. Like, no, you're getting up before the alarm clock and doing all the things exceptionally well, because that's the standard that you hold yourself and everyone around you to. And I do believe that when you act and you live like that, there's a lot of people that notice, even the people that you don't think notice. I always say it's contagious. And so, yeah, you're going to rub a lot of people wrong, and you're going to be misunderstood by a lot of people, but that's okay. That's how it should be. If we were all outstanding, and I say this all the time, if we were all outstanding and we were all great, who would work at the gas stations? And I'm not knocking the people that work at the gas stations. I'm just saying that's their place. That's probably as high as they're going to go in life. So that's kind of just touches on all of it.
So, okay. So what is because you like referred to bodybuilding as the low hanging fruit. And I understand what you mean by that, but what is your ultimate goal with cult leader and kind of having this, creating this culture and being this individual? Like, what's your ultimate goal, Turner, with it?
The ultimate goal, and like I said, my spouse and I, we talk about this all the time. And I hate the phrase like self-made, but like and there's been a lot of people that have helped me along the way, but I'm successful in this niche area. Well, number one, I don't want to just be I don't want to just be known as the bodybuilding coach. Like that's why when you said how would you like me to recognize you. What you say, whatever you want. You can say you're the biggest dickhead in the world if you want. I mean, hey, that's cool. But so my spouse, she's like where I am in corporate, in her corporate America job, and at the same time, like she's got this job and she's got this role and she's got this level that she has to always be at and go up above, and she's still trying to get better, whether it's on her own businesses on her own time, trying to be a great mother, and she is. And at the same time, I hate all these like words like inspire, self-made, things like that, but we want to connect with the people in life, and that's the thing. Like, I feel like personally, most bodybuilders, and I'm not just going to say bodybuilders, but most of the people that are just so ingrained in bodybuilding have lost track of the rest of the day, like the other 22 hours of the day. They're just so caught up. And I was there at one point in time. That's what I was saying. Like when I kind of flatlined, I was there. All I cared about was bodybuilding. Now, the gym is 2 hours of the day, and the other 22 hours of the day, I'm doing everything I can to learn, to prosper, and to just grow as a person with other people and network. Like I don't want to just be in this small, like, because the bodybuilding community is big, but it's really not in the grand scheme of things. And so in so many words, I just want to be a jack of all trades. And I know that I can only be great in a couple, so that's cool. But at the end of the day, like, I would like for at some point in time, and I say that because that's what I would like in life, to have someone that I can, like, hey, let me take you to lunch and let's just talk, man. I just want to pick your brain. And I've got some clients like that. Like, I've got a 56-year-old client that when we talk, he's great. I mean, he's a pro bodybuilder. He doesn't need me. But when him and I get together, we're on such the same page that it's like he can be himself, and he doesn't have to feel like I'm coaching and I'm coming down on him if he's not doing something right. Like, we can talk, and I don't have to like crack the whip on him, but at the same time, I'm learning from him. Like, he's got 50 years of experience in a totally different industry. And every time we get together, like, we talk business strategy, we talk why he sees things the way he sees things. And so in my mind, that's where that's, if I was inspiring people, that's what I would like to be inspiring bodybuilders to do. And I've here lately, I've kind of broken out of my shell and tried to like push that. I don't like to push my opinion on anyone, but at the end of the day, I feel like these people need to hear that, yes, you can be absorbed and obsessed with bodybuilding, because even to this day I am too, but I'm trying to kind of distance myself from being so obsessed with bodybuilding, because that's when I feel like I flatlined. I was so caught up in bodybuilding, who's winning the shows, who's prepping. Oh, these two guys are battling out on Instagram. Like, I don't give a shit about that. You'll probably at some point today ask me what my top pick is for the Arnold, and I don't even know the lineup, dude. Like, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, it might be a bad thing. Some of these guys might see it a certain way, but it's like, I really don't have time to sit. Like, I don't even have a TV at my new house. And again, I'm not knocking people that watch TV. I'm just saying, like, I'm trying to be exceptional in life. And it's not about the money. I think money comes when you're doing what you love and doing it to the best of your ability. And I think that I don't think you'll ever want or need for money when you're doing things like that. And that's just what I'm saying. Like, if you're contagious, it goes back to the posting thing that I was talking about. I was just posting to get business. It was almost all for the wrong reasons. Now I get business, and it's like, I don't turn anyone down, but I get business, and I'm not even trying. I'm just trying to be contagious, and I'm trying to level people up in more so than just winning bodybuilding shows and putting muscle on. And so, I think a lot of it gets lost in translation through Instagram, because the guys that I'm talking to, the guys that I was 5 or 6 years ago, where I was obsessed with bodybuilding, they just want to see bodybuilding content. I don't want to fucking post about bodybuilding content. Like let's talk about how we're going to invest this money, or start a new business, or what does 5 or 10 years look like from now? And that's what I tell all my clients. I've been fortunate enough to work with a lot of really, really young guys, like I was at the time, that I wish I had someone to do this for me, and I didn't. I I did, but I didn't have all these extras because I wasn't at that time 20, 21, 25. I wasn't worried about the extras. Like, tell me what I got to do to win shows. Tell me what more or less, or I got to train more. Whatever. I don't care. Just tell me. And so now it's kind of like the gist of what I tell all these guys is like, the person that you want to be in 5 to 10 years, that's where you need to be living right now. So if you want to be the person sitting up at the top of the hill, winning shows, lots of money, nice car, living in a decent place, not a 1-bedroom apartment, like still barely making rent, but you're affording your supplements and you're fucking slinging promo codes over here. Like, and please don't take that the wrong way, anyone. I'm just saying, like, there is so much more to being successful, and you can be a great bodybuilder and win shows and all of this extra. So pedigree and cult leader, there's a lot that encompasses, but really it's just kind of breaking. One of my clients said it the other day, like you're changing your family tree. And I think a lot of us get into bodybuilding. I know I did. I didn't get into bodybuilding, but wanting to be the best bodybuilder. And I'm competitive, but like wanting to win the big shows and all that. I saw Jay Cutler and Sean Ray and all these guys driving fancy cars. And I'm just enamored by cars. I always have been. But so to me, that was a driving factor. I don't come from poverty. I don't come from having everything I want either, but in my mind, I was doing all of that because I saw these other guys doing that. And so I think that a lot of young kids use this as a way to try to get out of poverty, and bodybuilding is not going to get you out of bodybuilding. Doing shows is not going to get you out of poverty. I shouldn't say poverty. This is a third world country. I mean, this is America. Let's be honest. Let's be real. But you can provide a good lifestyle being a coach, and coaching in general, being a trainer, you can have a good lifestyle, but you're not going to go to the next level until you start really networking, really getting outside your box. And I think that most bodybuilders are scared to get outside their box. And that's what blows my mind is you'll put 500-600 pounds on your back and squat till your nose bleeds. But you won't work 2 or 3 extra hours at work to be able to have a little money to throw in the stock market or, just anything like that. And so that's what it comes down to, and at the end of the day, I don't have to spend the time trying to, that's the biggest thing is like, I'm not trying to do this to make money off this. I'm just trying to do this to like kind of bring awareness. And I don't have to, like, I could spend all the time in the work or the rest of my time in the day just focusing on me and my family. But at the end of the day, I feel like it's my job to try to help bring some of these people up and try to show them the light.
That's good, man. And you brought up his name, and he was one of your top 5 favorite bodybuilders. But when I look at Jay Cutler,
yeah,
I always think, next level. Like he 4-time Mr. Olympia, got all the accolades for bodybuilding, all that, but there was always that side hustle going on. He invested in real estate. Like he's driving around in Rolls Royces. Like he went to that next level. It was bodybuilding, but while he was in bodybuilding and being very successful and being the best, he also had the side hustle going on. Now we see he's still in bodybuilding. He's got the supplement company, the YouTube and all that, but he's on a whole nother level than you see other Mr. Olympias and most top bodybuilders, because I think at some point, I think Chris Aceto was a big influence on him with the real estate. But at some point, and Joe Weider was a big influence too, but at some point, Jay at a very young age realized like, hey, like bodybuilding is awesome, but there's more to this than just bodybuilding. And I really appreciate you touching on that, Turner, because life is so much bigger than just one thing, right? It's bigger than bodybuilding. It's bigger than just whatever a certain pursuit we might be passionate about. there's so much more to life. There's so much more life to live. So hit the nail right on the head. I really, really appreciate that perspective, and it's very refreshing. Now, we've been going for almost an hour, so I want to be respectful of your time. I do want to touch on the coaching side of things. I think you said like when you were 24, you kind of had a few clients, just not charging them. You had like 10 at that time. And then when you won that show in 2014, it sounds like things really took off. Just talk about coaching in terms of, what it's maybe provided for you, and how it's really opened up some doors to maybe where you're at now, trying to go to this next level in life and business.
Well, for me, I didn't start coaching to have money and just be, whatever, have elaborate things. I started coaching so I could be a better bodybuilder, so I could make my own schedule, so I didn't have to take, be here at this time, be here at this time, all that. I just wanted to be a better bodybuilder. And I knew if I had my own clients and I could work from home, I could set my own gym time. I could, do whatever I needed. The only things I bought, supplements and food. I lived a really, really basic lifestyle for a long time, just because that's really all that mattered to me, man, was like my routine. And I'm still so routine set. It messes with me when I get out of my routine. But nowadays, I'm learning to enjoy. I'm learning to love that, because it's allowing me to step out. Be able to talk to these people that I would never talk to before, because I'm not getting out of bed before 9 o'clock. That type of thing. And so now, and my spouse, she has been the biggest supporter, influencer, all these things, because networking, for a long time, I had this mindset that, and I think it plays back into, sorry, there's a rooster in the background, around the country. But I had this mindset, was like, I'm going to do this all on my own. I don't need anyone. Same thing turning pro. I didn't need a coach. I didn't need I wish I had a mentor looking back now, and I probably wish I had a mentor then, but I was a little bullheaded, and I didn't want to really, like, it always, to me, it kind of, if someone was trying to help me, and I can even understand that now when I'm trying to, like, I'll say something to these young kids and I can tell that it really ruffles their feathers, probably to be told by some, big grumpy old, not old or that big, but anyways, like, when you're young, you don't really understand, you don't know how to receive information. You think they're coming down on you, and you think that, oh, he don't know what I'm going through. Like, I've been 22 at one time. I was probably the most hard-headed 22-year-old you ever met, to be honest. And still to this day, pretty hard-headed. But I'm seeing the vision. And there's a lot of things that, like, my dad would do and tell me growing up that I didn't want to hear it, because all he wanted to do was save me the headache. And that's what I'm trying to do for these kids nowadays. But when I was a kid, I had to learn the hard way. I had to do it 2 or 3 times, see the repercussions, get in trouble, whatever it was. Had to know the stove was hot. Had to. But coaching has provided, I wish I had this mentality a while back where I was networking and I was trying to, like, outreach and talk to more people, because I would definitely be farther along than I am. But that's just life, and you learn your lessons. But it's definitely provided a nice lifestyle for me to do all the things that I want to do. I still, to this day, live a really basic lifestyle. Like, nothing about what I do is elaborate. I don't dress in fancy clothes. I like to be in gym clothes. I like to go to the gym and get my food in and just hang out and be me. I've always been like that. I grew up around a lot of people that they were just them. If they rubbed you a little wrong, that's just Turner. But so I'm learning to appreciate all the different people, how they come, and that's what makes me a good coach nowadays. I feel like, is learning how to present the information that I want in a way that they want it, and that they will receive it. For a lot of time, I just did a lot of delegating, and that I think that's, I'm not gonna say that's not why I have success, because I've had success. I just think that I could have been a better coach. And obviously coaching is like being a player. You should always be evolving, learning, all the new strategies. But the one thing, yeah, obviously being a coach has allowed me to set my own schedule. And I think make my own schedule, and it's enabled me to decide at 8 a.m., do you want to lay in bed or do you want to get out there and get it? And for many years of coaching, I wanted to sleep till 10 o'clock, man. I would do my check-ins at midnight when everyone was asleep so I could get them all done. And I still do my work really late at night, because if you got 50, however many people coming at you with a text or an email, like, you'll never get ahead. So I like to work late, but I'm also learning and liking to get up early. That way I can be ahead. By whatever time of day, I can be already ahead of most of the rest of these lazy bodybuilders, because they want to sleep and they think that, they don't have to get in bed. They don't have to get out of bed before 10 o'clock. So it's cool, because I've been the hard-headed, young, dumb kid that thought a certain way. And now I look back and I'm like, there's a lot of people that still think like that. And I'm going to be ahead of all those people. And so, my ultimate goal here would be to continue to coach, but just not at the volume that I am, because it's not that I don't like to coach anymore. I think with anything, you kind of get burnt out a little bit, and it's my job and I love helping people. But I would really just like to kind of trim the fat. Like, if I can tell that if you're not helping yourself, I'm not going to be able to help you. And that's what it comes down to. Like, I'm not here to motivate you. I'm here to just guide you to be, try to be exceptional. And that's the thing. Like with me as a coach, I get so much more in depth than just, hey, can you hear me?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. My headphones they're like 10%. So, but anyways, I like to get so much more in depth than just, hey, eat chicken. Hey, whatever. Like, let's talk about what you're doing with the rest of your free time. I know you work a job, and I know you crochet your extra part of the time, but like, all this money that you're making, like, are you saving that? Where are you putting that? Okay, you want to do a show next year. All right, well, are you putting $10, $20 aside each paycheck so you can pay for that show next year? That way, when showtime comes, you're not just like, $1,000, man. Oh my gosh. Like, no, I've set $1,200 aside. So really the only thing I'm out is my gas money to drive to the show. And that's because I've done all this. I've done all this the wrong way, the right way. And so, they say experience, that's kind of where, like, when people say they want to hire someone that's got experience, I see that nowadays. But, and I don't know. I was told one time by a coach, what is his name? Anyways, he said hiring a coach is basically like going to college. And I see that. A good coach would be like going to college, in my opinion. A bad coach would be like, I think that a lot of these coaches nowadays just take on as many clients as they can, and they're like more so trying to be buddies with their clients so they can just get continual money. I don't coach for the money. Never have coached for the money. I coach because I want to make people better, but I want to make people better outside of just bodybuilding. Give me one more good question, and then I think my headphones are going to die. I could turn my thing off. I don't know.
No, that's okay. That's awesome. I was actually just going to say, I'm going to have to bring you on again, just because there's different levels to the conversation that we could have. And I would love to dig deeper into some of the nuts and bolts of bodybuilding. But again, this has been great. I'll bring you on again if you're open to that, Turner.
Absolutely.
I do just kind of want to finish out with one thing, just to get a little bit of the nuts and bolts with bodybuilding training. Just overall, generally speaking, what is your philosophy when it comes to training to just put on the most mass to get that hypertrophy?
Well, each exercise doesn't have to be balls to the wall as heavy as possible. Like, I don't think you should ever max out. You don't need to know what 2 reps will do. You don't need to know what I just needed to see if I could hit 500 on. No, you like number one is for however long you're in that gym, intensity must be through the roof. And the second that the intensity drops, call it a day. You know, that's one thing I wish I had a better grasp on when I was young. I would just train and train and train. And yeah, I was pretty intense the whole time, but like if I didn't feel just exhausted, I would just train 2.5 hours. And now like I'm so aware of what I'm doing and who I'm there with and what we're training that it's really crazy. Cause like when I walk into the gym, it's almost like I turn into a different person. Because like I'm there to work. It's like, it's no different than when I'm in the yard working. Like I'm got to get this stuff done and it's got to look a certain way. And I got to bust my ass because, daylight's fixing, with the sun's going to set. So it's like, when we turn on after we're warmed up and we start putting weight in our hands, it's just go for broke. And I don't necessarily mean everything's got to be the failure. I think that there's got to be multiple rep ranges. I think you have to understand, like, I'm trying to damage the muscle right here. And then I'm trying to force as much blood into the muscle right here. And then over here, I'm trying to stretch the muscle out as much as possible. That way, there's a number of reasons why you stretch, but don't get caught up in one thing. The one thing I will say, I do think that progressive overload is great, but I think that mindset is really hard to break once you get caught up in that. And I don't think that each workout you have to beat numbers, beat weight, whatever. I think that methodology can work for, it'll work across the board for a long time. But if you want to see substantial gains nonstop, you do have to kind of shock the muscle or change your workout, change your rep ranges. It doesn't always need to be, I got to beat 6 to 8. I got to beat 6 to 8 with every single exercise that I'm doing. Being able to understand that is the biggest thing. Being in touch with intensity, being able to understand that there's more than one way to skin a cat. Same thing with food. I do think that chicken and rice is probably always going to be gold. But, and then three is one thing that we should touch on another time is everyone thinks that they're in tune with their body. When I was younger, I thought that I was in tune with my body. I could train twice a day, every day, and I thought I could recover, but really I wasn't recovering. And for many years, I believed that there was no such thing as overtraining. And nowadays, obviously I'm older too, so I don't recover the same way. But and then there's one person that I'd like to talk about that even at a young age, and I'll say his name's Dallas, which everyone knows. When I was a kid, I keep saying that, like when we were 25 and 26 going to the gym, he would say, it's going to be a light day, pump some blood and get out of here. I'm beat up. And in my mind, I'm like, you're fucking 24, 5, dude. You're not beat up. Let's go train for 2 hours. And like, he was always really, really, really in tune with that. And I've never been in tune with that because I've just got this like old school blue collar, like work ethic. Like, let's just work till we're dead, And so I think the third one, intensity, understanding that there's more than one way to skin a cat. And then number 3 would be really, really, really being in touch with your rest, your recovery. And I think that with those 3 things, if you can eat like a half-ass bodybuilder, you can be really, really good.
Excellent. So, we're gonna stop right there. That's a great point to end this conversation. But for sure, I'm going to reach out to you again, Turner, if you don't mind. I'd love to have you come back on, man. We can dig a little bit deeper on some other stuff. But is there any final words or anything that you want to share with the listeners? If so, go ahead and share that. And then also, where can people follow along and connect with you in terms of social media?
Facebook is Turner Riddle. Instagram is Turner Riddle. Email turnerriddlebb@gmail.com. I've used that same email for years now. As far as I'll say this, I mean, that's really kind of the same thing I've been saying for as long as I know, is just be the hardest worker, and you know, my dad was that person to me, and had a couple other people that were like that. And so that's just the mentality that I like to preach, or like I said, be contagious. And I think that if, and I don't mean be the hardest worker only in the gym, I mean everywhere else. You know, there's more to the day, and there's a lot more that you can do than just being the biggest, strongest dude in the gym. And yeah, so just try to be elite in everything that you do. Make some money, man. Like, you know, just don't. I just feel like a lot of bodybuilders do bare minimal outside the gym because they don't want to waste their energy, because they could save that for the gym. And like I said, I was there, so I do know that that's what it is. But you know, there's levels to all of this, and as you get older and most of us mature, we slowly start to tap into these other things, and we realize, like, maybe I wasn't sandbagging. Maybe there was more to it. You know, I could be so much further along than I am now.
For sure. All right, man. Turner, thank you so much for taking some time to chop it up with me and share a little bit. Greatly appreciated. Listeners, thank you so much again for tuning in to another episode of Behind the Muscle podcast. 2 things I ask you, listeners. First of all, go to YouTube if you haven't done so already. Subscribe to Behind the Muscle podcast on YouTube, and then take Turner's episode, share it on all your social media platforms. There was a lot of awesome insight, wisdom that Turner shared with all of us. So share it on your social media platforms. Tag Turner, tag Behind the Muscle podcast, so we know that people are listening, people are gaining value from the podcast. And then finally, I will leave you all with this. Remember, behind the muscle, there's always a story. We'll catch you guys later.
Thanks, man.